expired. Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Acting Deputy President. And I too rise to speak on this motion. And the first observation I would make is that everybody in Labor should hang their head in shame. 610,000 Australians with serious and permanent disability and their families rely on this scheme. And increasingly, they are getting very, very nervous and very upset at the lack of transparency and the uncertainty that that is causing them. So we've seen the utter contempt. So last week, Senator McAllister stood up on behalf of the minister and spoke for about 10 seconds, and today it was less than 5 seconds. Now, that is utterly, utterly unacceptable and is nothing more than a two-fingered salute to every Australian who relies on the NDIS. But let's go into a bit more detail about what they're hiding and why they are hiding this data. As Senator Steele-John said, the Labor Party came into government, and in the NDIS, Minister Shorten, as opposition spokesman, came in and he said there will be no cuts to any plans. There's nothing wrong with the scheme, there's no sustainability issue, and he raised the expectations knowing that what he said was not true. And it was a cruel hoax, because in the last budget the Labor Party have cut $74 billion over the next 10 years from the scheme, and they have progressively shut down all transparency on the scheme. So what have they done? So in February, they cut the monthly financial statement reports that I implemented as a response to requests by the Labor Party and by many others in the sector to have more frequent information. Monthly are gone. The quarterly report, the last one that came out was in June. So they haven't even got the next quarterly report out, which has a lot of data in there which would enable us to identify where they are making the cuts to the scheme. And now, the most important document at all for transparency, for budget transparency, is the annual financial sustainability report, which they are refusing to release. We have a very short, in fact we have 4 pages only in the annual report, big text, lots of white space, to replace a 270-odd page report that provided the detailed actuarial data. So they have completely denied the Senate, the sector and the Australian public from any transparency at all on where they are making the $74 billion worth of savings. And not only that, they're showing complete contempt to everybody in this chamber by this public interest immunity claim. So what they're actually supposed to do for a public interest immunity claim, as they well know because they reminded us in government all the time, they have to do 2 things: provide a statement on the ground for that conclusion. Well, the ground that they provided is that it would cause problems with states and territory governments, which it simply couldn't do. But what they haven't even bothered to do is a second test, to specify the harm to the public interest that could result if the information is provided. And they haven't done that either. And again, Senator McAllister has shamefully come into this place and spent 5 seconds speaking to the 610,000 Australians with serious and permanent disability. Shame on you all. So what they're trying to hide, and you will not get away with this. You will not get away with this breathtaking lack of accountability and transparency. There's only 2 ways you can cut $74 billion from the NDIS scheme. There's 2 drivers of cost: participant numbers and average cost per participant. One or both of those has to be cut. Now, there was a very short statement from the government actuary, which must have galled the Minister Shorten that he couldn't avoid putting the government actuarial report in here, and he's let the cat out of the bag, because he said that amounts included in the baseline projection have been reduced to allow for initiatives in the May 2023 budget. So somehow the $700+ million are going to, over time, make $74 billion worth of savings to this scheme. I mean, it is completely and utterly ludicrous, and those opposite should hang their heads in shame.
Order. Time has expired. Senator Scarr.